He's the CEO of Telefonica UK, which is otherwise known as O2. He's a Dublin-born businessman, so a local boy. He's as passionate about technology and entrepreneurship as he is about championing young people and his young employees. Please welcome Ronan Dunne. Welcome.
So, good afternoon, everybody. First thing to say, as I think they may have mentioned, is I'm a homeboy. So I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you all at this amazing gathering of the people who will define all of our futures. So it's great that we're here in Dublin, not just because it's my hometown, but Dublin is a young town. It's a city with 50% of its population under the age of 36. It's also a city that has absolutely embraced a digital future. So almost 50% of all the direct investment that comes to Ireland comes to Dublin, and as many of you will know, has some of the most impressive names in the digital world represented here: Google, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, AOL, eBay, Microsoft, Amazon, Yahoo, and if there's somebody in the room who I've forgotten, I apologize. But like Dublin itself, it's also important that the rest of us transform ourselves, evidence our willingness to invest both in young people and in technology to change outcomes. And that's why I'm here representing Telefonica, because we passionately believe in two things. We passionately believe in young people, but we passionately believe in the power of technology to make change for good. And I'll be clear, it's about enabling you guys to do a better job than people like I have in our generation, and I have incredible confidence that you can absolutely do that. So I want to talk a little bit about our global millennial survey. So first question is, what is it and why would we want to do it? So people of my age are great at talking, but how good are we at listening? So what we've done for the last 2 years in Telefonica, we've turned it around and we've said, let's go out and let's really understand what people of 18 to 30 all around the world are talking about, are thinking about, dreaming about, and worrying about. And that's the reason why we have now the results of our second global millennial survey. And you might say, but why? Well, it's enlightened self-interest. Over 1 million customers of Telefonica around the world fit into that age group of 18 to 30. And let's be clear, there's no future for our society or for my business without actively engaging that community. There are colleagues, there are customers, there are leaders, there are entrepreneurs. And importantly, if they succeed, my business will also succeed. So we're investing very practically. In Dublin, we have an incubator for startups. But we also have one in Bogota, we have one in Madrid, we have one in Barcelona, we have one in London, and all across Latin America, because we believe we should create the conditions for young people to be able to reach their own ambitions and ideally do it in their own locations. So let me just quickly run through a couple of the key themes that came out of our survey. So the first thing is good news. As a generation, you're unbelievably positive. 89% of young millennials think that their best days and those of their countries are still ahead. But interestingly, in the country that I operate in on a day-to-day basis in the UK, half of the survey millennials don't believe that the country's best days are ahead of it. Secondly, 72% believe that they have opportunities in their country to become entrepreneurs. And that's really important because very often in parts of the world, the presumption is you have to come to London or you have to go to Silicon Valley to have a real opportunity. Well, the great news is more and more people are believing that the opportunity exists within their own country. They believe in their countries and want action to help citizens. So they're worried about social mobility. They're worried about affordable housing, education, jobs, all of the things you would expect people to be worried about. But the good news is they're the same agenda that our politicians and our business leaders are concerned about as well. The challenge and the opportunity is engage all of you as future leaders in that agenda, because one of the challenges is, despite the fact that you're concerned about the same things, have the same level of ambition, actually, 80% of you have a smartphone, but 70% of young people in the UK, when asked, didn't believe that getting actively involved in politics would make any difference whatsoever, i.e. they don't believe their vote will count. So what we've got to do as the current generation of leaders is properly enable you all as a future generation of leaders, and that's where we believe in Telefonica we can help through the power of enabling technology and harnessing that technology so that you can be much more effective, and that we as an older generation can enable you to drive the change that you so passionately believe about. So you're all digitally engaged, and I would challenge the people of my generation are setting analog ambitions for our businesses and for our society, and not recognizing the digital talent that exists all across the world. You're all born digital natives. We sometimes describe it as Generation Y, but in many respects it's Generation M, it's Generation Mobile. Mobile is the most enabling technology for many, many generations. It democratizes access to information, and that creates equal opportunity if it's harnessed properly. So I'm really pleased at the fact that we have a forum here where we can talk about the real challenges and opportunities that you all as a generation of millennials can focus on, and that how we, as the older generation, can create the enabling conditions for all of you to be the success you deserve to be. So, before I go any further, what I'd love to do is ask you all a question. We surveyed all across the different regions of the world, so we're going to do some interactive voting now. What I'd like to understand is, which region do you think is most optimistic about its future? So, if you can all please vote.
Now, this hasn't been working that seamlessly. We're going to see how it works now. It doesn't turn it off and turn it back on, but you shouldn't actually need to turn them off. And you can see 1 is Asia, 2 South America, 3 North America, 4 Europe, 5 Africa, and 6 Australasia. And don't forget to press send after you vote. So it's been picking up about 800 votes a question, so some of you may be not pressing send. Let's vote. We were saying earlier, the best money-making business idea is to create one of these things that works.
It also, those of
Are
you
the votes working in the back? Can someone talk to me in my ear and tell me if you're getting the votes? There we go.
Okay, so our survey says Asia is where we believe is most optimistic about its future. Well, I know the answer.
Yay, Africa!
Stop being biased.
The numbers are still moving. I was going to say, for those of you who ever watch any British television, it gives me a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to now say, our survey says, and the answer is Latin America is the region which people are most positive. And you might have guessed that because in the introduction, you know that I'm now going to speak in a minute to 4 of our Latin American presidents. But before I do that, let me just give you highlights of our survey. So the first thing is higher levels of satisfaction in Latin America with life than any other millennial group, with 90% of them either very or somewhat satisfied, which is a fantastic positive energy to be able to tap into. The next thing we discovered is they're also the most optimistic, with 72% of the millennials believe that their country's best days are ahead, as opposed to about 50% in Europe and about 50% in the US. And entrepreneurial spirit, and I mentioned at the start about enabling people to be successful in a place of their choice. One of the big challenges being in the first evolution of the digital economy has been the need or the perception that people have to leave their own country to be successful entrepreneurs. Well, the fantastic news is that in LATAM, it has the highest level of entrepreneurial spirit, people who want to start their own business, and a confident belief that they can do it in their own country. And actually, those with a belief in wanting to start their own business is double that in Europe. So really, really positive messages coming from Latin America, and overall very positive messages coming from all across the world. But don't just take my word for it or Telefonica's survey word for it. We're just going to roll a video of somebody who you all recognize, but you won't always remember, is actually one of you. He is a young millennial. So let's roll the video.
Nací en 1986 en Manacor, Mallorca. En estos 28 años han cambiado muchas cosas, no solo en mi vida, también en todo el mundo. En los años 80, Internet era algo de lo que muy poca gente había oído hablar. Los que hablaban inglés sabían que un tweet era el sonido de un pájaro y phishing era algo que hacías con una caña o una red de pescar. Ahora, gracias al alto nivel de conectividad del que disfrutamos, todo ha cambiado. Mi generación, la generación del milenio, los que tenemos entre 18 y 30 años, contamos con oportunidades difíciles de imaginar hace unos años. Pero al mismo tiempo hay grandes retos y barreras que superar. En los últimos años he tenido la suerte de jugar torneos en Argentina, Brasil, Chile, México y Perú. Estos viajes me han permitido conocer mejor la región y disfrutar de su comida, sus paisajes, su historia. Pero lo que más me gusta sin duda es la energía y la pasión de su gente. De hecho, en el estudio Millennials se demuestra el alto nivel de optimismo, ambición y espíritu emprendedor de los jóvenes latinoamericanos. Me gustaría felicitar a Telefónica por realizar un año más este estudio que nos ofrece una visión única sobre cómo es la generación del milenio, los líderes del mañana. Yo os diría, pensad a lo grande. Pensad a lo grande sobre vuestra vida. ¿Qué queréis conseguir y qué queréis aportar? Trabajad duro, divertíos y haced vuestros sueños realidad.
So, muchas gracias, Rafa. And the message is really very clear. People in Latin America and all across the world, people of your generation, believe that technology and innovation is going to be key to all our futures. And with the 80% of you owning a smartphone, access to information in order to empower those dreams is more effective than ever. What we have to do is make sure that we don't leave it for you to do it on your own. We have to, and you have to challenge us to harness existing leadership, whether that be business leadership or governments, to support you, to invest in you, to invest in the education systems that support you, so that you can all be the absolute success that you all deserve to be.